we're going to be talking about today the energy of Gemini and Sagittarius on the axis of the North Node and South Node, meaning, okay, we're talking about past lives and we're talking about current legacy, missions, visions, and things like that. Hold on one second. Okay, cool. Currency, legacy, missions, visions, and things like that when we're talking about the North Node and South Node in astrology. So you don't necessarily have to have a North Node and South Node in Sagittarius in order to learn about this. If you're just coming along for the ride, welcome in. If you're new here, welcome into my humble abode. All right. If you see the mosquitoes in the video and I happen to get up, I might need to turn this fan on a little bit higher to get these mosquitoes up off the kid because they've been sucking my blood. All right. Sucking my blood. All right. So anyway, but today we're going to be talking about, again, the Gemini, and my hair's all over the place. Look, I just came out of a storm. I mean, she is the storm. So if you're ready to transform through the storm, you've come to the right place. Let's talk about Gemini and Sagittarius, North Node and South Node energy. First and foremost, this energy can help you, like I said, not only learn about your past energy, if it happens to be transiting through your personal birth chart, you can also see what this energy could, and how this energy could affect you as well in your own personal birth chart. We haven't had the North Node and South Node in Gemini and Sagittarius. I think that was 2020 or 2021. That was, I think that was 2020, 2021, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, real shit show. Anyway, we made the best of it, but it was a shit show. All right, let's be real. Anyway, so what is the North Node and South Node in astrology? Or the lunar moon nodes, okay? Are the lunar nodes, I should say lunar moon nodes in astrology. This is the celestial points in astrology where the sun and moon intersect, okay? That's what we're talking about. So in your chart, depending on where you have your North Node and South Node, which we'll be talking about all the nodes through this series, this is the energy that you can definitely experience here. Okay, we're going to talk first about the Gemini and Sagittarius energies. Then we'll talk about Gemini South Node and Sagittarius North Node. Then we'll switch it up and talk about Sagittarius South Node and Gemini North Node. Okay, so first things first, what is the energy of Gemini and Sagittarius? Well, Gemini, because they're sister signs, is the inquisitive, mutable air, twinning in things energy, okay? This is mutable air. This is rules over the mind. We talk about communication when we're talking about Gemini here. All forms of communication, writing, speaking, traveling, messaging, painting, cooking, divination, all forms of this energy here, okay? When the baby first learns its immediate environment and it learns how to speak, this is Gemini, okay? When the baby's like, oh, well, don't touch that stove because it might be a little hot, babe. It might be a little hot, and the baby touches it anyway, and then it learns, oh, can't touch this, even though somebody told me not to touch this. I can't touch this because it's hot. Gemini, okay? Those senses start to kick in. All right. Gemini also rules the hands, which we'll talk about more in root work astrology on Friday or Venus Day. So you can definitely check that out as well here too. And the breathing and all that kind of stuff. So this is a little bit about Gemini energy. Sagittarius, on the other hand, also too, before I get to Sagittarius, Gemini talks about, like, for example, this is like mid-level in education, at least in tropical astrology or Western astrology. So this is like, elementary school, middle school, high school. Sagittarius is when we get to like, before I get to that, I would even say that Gemini is trade schools because it's a skill. It's a learned skill. And Gemini is quick on its feet with skills, with many skills, many things. Jack of all trades. Jack of all trades, master of none. There's a longer quote to it. All right. I don't know exactly when, okay, the full quote, but basically, Jack of all trades, master of none. Basically, many is better than one, okay? Because sometimes you just need sometimes you need more than one skill, all right? Saying. Yes, is it a shot? Yes, it is a shot to myself. Just saying, because I'm a Mars and Gemini personally, and then I have a Gemini moon in Vedic astrology. So, like, I know we be doing a lot, but we supposed to be doing the most. We the messengers, baby. Anyway, as I was saying, Sagittarius is the higher education, or what we would see in this particular lifetime is like going to college, higher education, going further in your education, going off to a place in a study to go study the actual thing that you're learning about versus like reading about it or hearing about it from someone else. No shade, Gemini, just saying. All right. It's like Gemini takes all the things from its immediate environment, where Sagittarius actually goes out, learns the language, immerses itself in the language. I'm also Gemini South Node and North Node gang. All right. So I know a little thing or two about this energy here. All right. So this is what you can see with Now, Sagittarius also too is like the philosopher, the great thinker. This is where we talk about like faith and religion and things. I hope this isn't blowing smoke, but if it is, I hope y'all still hear me. The great thinker, seeker, the traveler, long distance travel. Gemini is more like short distance or in the neighborhood, or like maybe like a state over. Gemini or Sagittarius could be like a foreign place, like a place you've never been before, or maybe like 3 states over. You know what I'm saying? But really, it's a foreign place. It's a place that you've never been. Versus Gemini is like maybe just in the neighborhood, or the people that you've known and grown up with and things like that. So that's a little bit what you can see with Sagittarius: learning the language, expanding on the language, stuff like that. Drinking the different wines from many different places across the seas, all that good stuff. Sommeliers. All right, so when we have Gemini in the South Node, which is South Node energy, again, is the past life roots, the patterns that we've come into, that we brought into from a past life incarnation. And the North Node is like the energy that we're kind of like a little uncomfortable, but we're kind of gearing towards as well too. Gemini in the South Node is releasing the I guess proverbial Gemini know-it-all in the like you have to go to the place, South Node and Gemini. Like you have to actually go see it for yourself, in this lifetime. Also, Gemini can be a little bit gossipy, all right? It can be a little bit, mouth of the South. And so, it's releasing like, it's the spread of information, mass information. So, being in this space where you are actually factually getting news and information from the source, right? This is also where you could see kind of like small town energy as well with Gemini in the South Node. You have to leave the neighborhood that you grew up in order to really like learn and understand and see. Gemini is like factual. It's like, I know the facts. These are the facts. Sagittarius with that North Node there, on the opposite of that energy is very spiritual. Gemini needs to know. Sagittarius is okay with not knowing. It's okay with taking the first step without having all the steps down. And I know Virgo gets the bad rap, you know what I'm saying? But Gemini can be very like detail oriented in that way too. It might not be focused on all the details, but it is focused on the facts. These are the facts. This is what's been stated, And also too, Gemini is perceptive in a way which is learning from not only its immediate environment, but it reminds me of Google. The energy of it just kind of reminds me of Google. And it's like, not to say that information is necessarily full on 100%, on brand, right? With Sagittarius, it's like, no, I actually went to the islands of, whatever. And I seen the people and I talked to the people and I studied the thing, and I was immersed in this energy. It's big stage energy versus like small town. And there's nothing wrong with small town energy at all, but sometimes you have to break out of. So for example, I'll use it myself as a South Node in Gemini. I knew from a very young age very young age. Look at me, I knew from a very young. But when, for example, I was in college, at the time, and I quickly realized while I was in college that it wasn't really doing enough for me, to go and get this education and just to say on paper that, hey, I know these things, let me get a job and like hire me type shit. It was kind of like, but I need more. Like I need to Gemini likes to touch things and, have its hands on things. And it's very cerebral. It's very mental because it's mutable air. So it's the mind. But Sagittarius is fire. I need more passion, more energy, more drive, So I left, the place that I grew up in, place that I part-time grew up in, because I moved all over the place as a child. And that's another thing with Gemini, just moving a lot, depending on where it's at. But a lot of movement. Sagittarius too, a lot of movement, a lot of traveling, a lot of movement, or having to adapt to new environments because it's mutable fire and mutable air. So just being able to adapt to different places and spaces and people. But I knew, even though I told myself I was going to stay where my family was, I was like itching to leave and go somewhere else. I was itching to go explore things off to myself versus just kind of doing the same thing from like close to home kind of thing. And I was like, I feel like there's more to this. It gotta be more to this. You know what I mean? Also too, Gemini has to do with words. At the time I was working in the English department at the college that I graduated from. And so it was just interesting how I went from that transition to like actually leaving and like traveling the world, traveled in the US, now traveling internationally, actually again submersing myself in like different cultures and like trying to learn the language. Yeah. Hablo español un poquito. Just a little bit. I'm still learning though, you know what I mean? So this is kind of like what you can see with this South Node in Gemini, North Node in Sagittarius. Now, when the South Node is in Sagittarius and the North Node is in Gemini, okay, so it's what we're releasing into what we're stepping into. Also, too, I just want to say with the North Node in Sagittarius is embracing center stage, or basically being in a place where you are speaking about like, this to me is what I'm doing right now is very North Node in Sagittarius, speaking about like spirituality, specifically astrology, teaching, and things like that. Think about Gemini as a student in Sagittarius as a teacher. It's like going from the student to the teacher energy here. And then when it comes to South Node in Gemini to our South Node in Sagittarius to the North Node in Gemini, think about it as the teacher to the student, because we're all both, and we all simultaneously switch through one to another to the next one. You know what I'm saying? And so Sagittarius kind of goes from in the South Node, coming from like this big world stage, having this knowledge, but then kind of coming in as Gemini, like kind of like this fresh kid on the block of like learning something completely new. Maybe you spend more time, in the neighborhood that you grew up in, or you're having to learn more from your environment versus like learning something from a foreign place, or maybe you grew up in a past life where you really didn't know the people that you were around, right? Or the people felt very foreign to you that you grew up around. You know what I'm saying? Or if not that, maybe you just have a lot of wisdom and knowledge that you came from in a past life, but now you're in a new situation or a new place, and you're kind of having to learn all over again. You're having to be like the student in this space, and kind of releasing like the Sagittarius, like soapboxy, like I know it all, you can't tell me nothing energy. It could be kind of preachy as well too in this energy. And then coming from a place of like, well, how can I learn from my immediate environment? Like what's going on like right now and around me? You know what I mean? Like I said, Sagittarius is the philosopher, right? So it gains theory around these different subjects, whereas Gemini is just taking from the here and now. There might not be a sense of like study, right? And Sagittarius really do just be knowing. Its motto is I know, right? It do be knowing, and it learns from its experience. But Gemini is just like, like very observant, and this energy here. Also, too, a great communicator as well. And sometimes depending on who's asking the questions, right? But learning how to communicate, learning how to, whether that's, like I said, through speaking, writing, talking, travel, hieroglyphics, I don't know, learning how to decode messages and things here as well too. Being able to gather amongst people, because Sagittarius can gather amongst people, but it's also kind of like not the hermit, not the Virgo energy hermit, but it's kind of hermity in the way of like it'll kind of go off on its own solo and kind of do these things. Gemini is like the great connector between people. Okay, it knows how to connect with people, even if it's for a short period of time. So that's definitely something you could also be seeing here too. All right. So that's a little bit about the North Node and South Node in Gemini and Sagittarius. Definitely make sure you check out that cheat sheet that I have available for the Evolutionary Astrology, my digital offering here too. Definitely check out the other, offerings and courses that are available. There will be more in the future. But I hope you enjoyed this, and I will definitely see y'all on the next one Wednesday. We're going to be talking about Mercury lines and locational and astrocartography. Okay, so y'all make sure y'all check that out next week, and make sure you like, share, subscribe. Hit the notification bell so you know when I post. Subscribe to the free newsletter down below. All right. And yeah, also come on Friday for root work. And we're going to be talking about Gemini here too. So you already know what it is. It's a rainy storm checking in, checking out without a doubt. Deuces.